All right, are we live? Welcome to the live stream. I cannot see there we go. Good. Welcome to this live stream, everybody. It's going to be on how to get clients as a freelance marketer. We're just getting settling in here. Give us a 30, 60, maybe 120 seconds to kind of launch this stream, and we'll jump right into it. Got a lot of great information for you today. Going to give you a lot of clarity around how to acquire clients as a freelancer in 2026. What's working? What should you be doing if you're brand new? What might you do if you're a little bit more experienced, but you've been struggling, you're inconsistent? I'll go over everything I've done. I think I will in detail review every single client I've acquired and how that looked from my end. Let me know out there how the sound is, how the picture quality is. Am I crystal clear? Streaming live from Paraguay, no tax heaven. So many of you inquiring in my last live stream about moving to Paraguay. And it's very exciting to know how many people are interested in a new world for themselves, a little bit of a change, something exciting. And that's something that we talk about here now. You know, I can't help it. It's part of my storyline. It's something I've done. And, you know, I love to tell people that, you know, if you struggle with like content or maybe your personal brand or whatever they like to call it these days, you know, the number one thing you can do is get out there and do something with your life. That's going to give you that storyline. I think the kids these days like to call it the lore. You know, when you have lore, it's really easy to sort of share about it, talk about it. And if you have some unique lore, I just think it's all the better. So many people out there starting businesses, creating videos, whatnot. Not too many people leaving North America for South America. Not too many people doing that with kids. Not too many people going to Paraguay, especially. So that's the lore for 2025 for Rich UX. Great to see people piling into the chat. We're just getting going. If you've got a question about how to get clients, I'm going to be answering it today. Probably do a 2-hour stream. I think last week we did about 2.5 hours. It was a little long, definitely takes a toll, but you know, you got to build up the live stream muscles, and that's exactly what we're doing. So while I've got some time before we get a lot of people here, for those of you watching the replay, let me get this out nice and early. I've got a workshop coming up in January 10th and 11th. It's going to be on AI website development. Let me take you over here. If you go to richniche.com/workshop, you'll come to this page. And I'm going to be doing a weekend of mastering AI no-code web design. Learn to create stunning client-ready websites without touching a single line of code. Perfect for freelancers, marketers, entrepreneurs looking for a monetizable AI-powered skill. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how do you use AI to get clients. If AI can save you time, can you leverage that into some sort of client acquisition process? And as you can see in the banner at the bottom, going to run a little sale as we launch this workshop. This is the first time I've mentioned it. January 10th and 11th, join me live on Zoom for this special workshop. And for the next 24 hours, doing a 20% sale, probably the only sale we're going to be running. Go to the site. No code 20 is the code. You can get a ticket for yourself for about $75. That's going to give you access to the 2 days. You're going to build a portfolio of 3 to 5 brand new websites. You're going to be learning a lot of new updated AI strategies and tools. And you're going to get access to the replay for at least 30 days and any other bonuses we come up along the way. So glad to get that out of the way. Welcome to this live stream. Future Proof Live, it seems we're calling it. Got the future-proof mug out today. I've got a little bit of coffee going. It is 2 p.m. my time. It's probably about 9 to 12 your time. Great to have you here on a Saturday morning. Nothing better than on a Saturday learning how to get more clients. So think about any questions you might have, drop them in the chat, maybe save them for a bit later. I'm going to get into a little bit of an intro. I'm going to get into a bit of an overview. And I still haven't figured out how to turn off that subscriber sound. I wish I knew how. It seems like it's deactivated on my screen, but I must be missing the proper settings. So bear with me as I continue to develop this production. My volume's not too loud, is it, guys? Do I need to turn my volume down a bit? It looks a little hot. Hot, hot, hot. Paraguay hot. Entering the summer over here, going to be sweltering, I'm sure. The sound on the webcam is perfect. Wow, perfect. 10 out of 10. High score from the judges. Okay, let's get into it. I think I want to jump into a little screen share with you guys. The best way to get clients as a freelancer in 2026. Can you believe we're almost in 2026? Just days, just a matter of weeks. We can't even say months away anymore. We can only say weeks. Got a little holiday season for some of y'all. Got a lot of winter break for some of y'all. If you're like me on the bottom half of this planet, you have a summer break coming up. I'm going to Chile over the summer break. Santiago. Really looking forward to Chile. I'm not going to be going down to the southern Patagonia region, but that is my dream, is to one day truly explore the Patagonia region. I'll just be exploring a bit of Santiago, a little bit of the beach side, east, west of Santiago. Chile is such an interesting country. The shape of it, the dynamic nature of the north and south. We've got incredible wines coming out of Chile. So a lot of benefits to coming out to Paraguay. I've already been to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and now I'm going over to Chile. I believe my son is getting his 9th country, maybe his 10th. He's only 5 years old, and he'll be visiting his 9th country, I think. So really excited for him. You know, that's not a childhood that many of us can say we had. And I hope that one day he can at least appreciate all the photos, videos, and memories we create in these places. But enough about my summer break. Enough about travels, just warming the stream up while we get a few more thousand people in here, aiming for 100,000 viewers today. And if we don't get that, we'll be grateful for what we do have. Welcome, Milos. Welcome, Sandra. Welcome, Yask. Yask, as we would say in South America, in Espanol. The best way to get clients as a freelancer in 2026, probably not a live stream that too many people are going to be interested in, but those who are interested, going to be deeply, deeply interested, I'm sure. It's one of those topics that it's not really relevant to 99.9% of people out there, but for the 0.01% of winners who are doing something big with their life and want to have this special feeling of having clients going into 2026. Very, very important. And I'm going to do my best to be as comprehensive as possible in this live stream, to cover every avenue, to give you the honest truth about what I think works, what I don't think works, what I think is hard, what I think lazy people typically do. I'm going to try and get into every nook and cranny when it comes to this question, because this is the number one question I get. And it's ultimately the hardest question that people face. It is the biggest mountain to climb. But once you've climbed it, you can most likely look forward to a downhill experience. And we'll get into why that is, why getting your first client is typically the hardest, and maybe why getting the first 3 to 5 is challenging. But after that, you know, you're definitely going to experience some tailwinds, momentum, and hopefully a very, well-paid life. The whole point of getting clients in the first place is to uncap your income, whether you're making below average, average, or an above average salary. Let's say 40 to 80,000 US dollars. I think that covers most people who might watch this stream. If you're less than that, grind, bust out. If you're above that, you've got a lot of things solved in your life. Maybe you're making a switch. Maybe you want to get out of this corporate ladder grind. I hear you. But if you're making 40 to 80,000, what is that? About between, 3,500 to 7,000 a month, working full time typically for one entity, an entity that has a lot of leverage against you, an entity that can replace you with outsourced workers, an entity that might be trying to figure out if AI has some ability to replace you, cutting back your hours, laying you off. So many problems with having a single entity running your life and giving you a paycheck. I know it felt stable in the last few decades, but never before has this become so unstable. If you open X, every week you see another large corporation laying people off. And if they're laying people off, there's also a good chance that medium-sized companies might be doing the same thing, regional, even local. I actually think small businesses have an immense opportunity right now, especially if they can meet a marketer like you. If they can tap into the power of the full stack marketer, they will have a realization that this is lean, effective, and they'll want to pay you a reasonable sum instead of divvying it out to 4 or 5 people and having to manage this so-called team. Hello, Mike Brown. Good to see you in the live. A sick background. Yeah, it's somewhat sick. It's a very lovely, lush area just outside of Asuncion, and it's real. You know how many people actually put real backgrounds these days? It's hard to tell. All right, let's talk about the best way to get clients as a freelancer in 2026. What am I going to cover today? Let's look at some of the outline that I have for you, and I'll try to keep the screen nice and clear, nice and big, in case you're out there on your mobile device. We got to care about those on the mobile. I mean, we're already streaming in horizontal 16:9 aspect ratio. We got to feel bad for those out there still on the iPhone 5, etc. I want to talk about my experience. I want to make sure you understand the 4 primary methods of getting clients. I want to talk about leverage. I think leverage is a very important word as an entrepreneur. Whenever you can find leverage, you're getting more for less. You're getting a higher return, a bigger output for a smaller input. I think that's very valuable and important to understand how to create leverage and utilize it. We'll talk a little bit about magnetism and how important magnetism can be as a freelancer. What kind of targets, what kind of people, what makes a good target, what makes a bad target? How can you think about targeting clients and where should you be focused? We might cover a little bit of math and how people overlook some of these very simple equations and how to get their mindset properly tuned. Look, the bottom line is, it is your mindset that determines 90% of your outcome. It is the mind controlling everything, how you perceive things, how you feel about feedback, how you feel about life, how you feel about money. It is your mindset, and it's so important to have good mindsets, and it can't be overlooked. The reason people come to me is not to understand the basics of a funnel, how to create content in Canva. It is to fix their mindset, because many of us went to university, college, high school. We have parents, we have leaders in our community, we have pastors, we have educators, teachers, different people who've impacted us. And 99% of those people or institutions were not entrepreneurial, did not care about entrepreneurial endeavors. And so the things they taught us, the things that they so-called brainwashed us, made us think about life, our world, and our possibilities, are not any longer useful. So it's so important to clear the deck, to reset, to unlearn in many cases. And that will probably come up a couple times today. Today's stream is not scripted in any way. I'm ready to answer questions. I'm ready to tackle the difficult from my own personal experience. This is not written by ChatGPT. This is not prepared. This is not a sales pitch. We are all here to solve this challenging problem. Look, if it was easy to get clients, nobody would have a job anymore, and everyone would do this. Relatively speaking, it's easy to train up. It's easy to get skills. But to turn yourself into a client-getting entrepreneur, to strengthen your communication skills, your mindsets, and your confidence, that is the challenge. And that's why we're all here today. We don't want to try and do this all by ourselves. If there's ever a time when somebody says, hey, I've been there, I've done that, and it's what we want to do, we should listen. And I'll talk about spam and how so many people are merely just spam. On a daily basis, I mark multiple reach outs as spam, multiple Instagram DMs, blocked and deleted constantly. These people do not get it. Okay, and we're going to see how do we avoid that. I may work on my whiteboard. I may have prepared a few screenshots or written a few notes, but we've got very little to start. Here's like where we got. This is what I got today. Okay, I don't have a lot. We're going to let questions in the chat dictate where we go. But let's start off with my experience. And I'll bring you back over to the main screen here. And we'll have a little bit of the agua before we get started here. My experience getting clients. Oh, wow. So a lot of people like to ask me about how I got clients as freelancers. It's one of the most common questions I've received. And I've been freelancing since the 2010s. And in fact, earlier than that. My earliest experience of like freelance, in my opinion, I was about 15, 16, 17 years old. And my sister, she used to ride horses and she would compete in those jumping competitions. It's called like equestrian horseback riding and show jumping. And one day I saw this guy was taking pictures of people and selling it, and he was the only guy doing it. And I said, I want to do that. I can make some cash. I was like 16, 17 years old. And so I bought one of those white Canon L glass lenses. I spent $1,500, and at that age was an incredible amount of money. I don't remember how I even had that much, to be honest. But I was working jobs. Like I used to work at the golf course. I used to sell golf equipment. I was a big golfer coming up as a young person. But I would be dragged along to some of these equestrian events. I said, I want to make some money. So I bought a good camera, had a nice lens that could reach a long ways because you're kind of watching from afar. And I had a printer. I bought a color printer. And so I would take pictures and I would set up in a trunk of our car and say, hey, I've got some pictures of you. Would you like to see them? And if you'd like to buy them, it's like $20 a print. So I have been in the game of doing media related things for other people for 25 years. When I was 20 years old, I was doing videography, and I took a 2-year program at a technical school to learn how to be an expert video person. And it was meant to be for the news. We were supposed to make the news. I wasn't really interested in that. I was a bit more interested in filmmaking, but people were hiring me to make videos for them. And I'm certain that at this time, being so young, the only method I knew about how to get clients was word of mouth. Somebody knew that Rich had a decent camera and would help you make a video. So I spent my teens mastering photos and videos. Well, mastering is probably a strong word. I don't think I mastered it, but I was an enthusiast. That's an important first point, that you always want to be a real enthusiast about the service you sell. That is going to come across to people, whether they're a stranger or they know you. And when I was about late 20s and early 30s, I was still interested in video. I started my YouTube channel in 2012, but for 10 years before that, I was putting videos on the internet in different formats, in different ways, even before YouTube existed. And when YouTube came out in 2008, I was like, oh, this is interesting, but it's like 30 to 60 second videos. It's like funny videos. What's the point of that? And then a few years it kind of developed. And that's when I was in law school and I had kind of given up on video because I didn't know how to make any money with it. I didn't even think about getting clients. I just thought, like, how do you get a project? You know, when I think of the word client, that means repeat buyer. A customer is someone who buys for the first time. A client is someone who keeps coming back to you. So when I was, 2012 is 13 years ago. So I started my YouTube channel 13 years ago, and I wasn't even getting clients at this time. I was in law school, but I was interested in YouTube. I was still knowing about video, making little videos here and there. Occasionally, an odd job would come along and I would get paid. I think the most I ever got paid to make a video was probably $5,000 from a corporation, but that was through word of mouth, and they had a lot of money, and I was sort of aware that they didn't have a better option and that was cheap to them, but it was a lot for me at the time. So I say all this to tell you I have a lot of experience coming at this in terms of, hey, I've got a skill and I want to get paid. And just like you, I struggled for the first half of that story. I had no understanding about what it means to get clients. I had no understanding about marketing yourself. This was before I even knew much about websites. Definitely didn't know anything about advertising. And so we come across, 2016, 2018, 2020. By now, I've been studying digital marketing. I've made 20, 50 websites. I've dabbled in advertising. And that sort of brings me to the stories of how I got my clients. And I want to kind of go through them and think back about how they actually played out. And if you want to know more about how I got my clients, I would read my book or my audiobook. You can get that for free in the link below of this video. I'm sure I posted, get my free book or whatever, and it's easy to find. Go to my Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Rich+Niche. I've been posting some nice motivational stories lately, getting you locked in. But here's how it went down. Here's what it was like to get my first freelance marketing clients. And I think it's very important to recognize that freelance marketing wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing when I started. I was the only one in the world that I knew of doing this. And that's sort of what helped me get into the world of telling that story. Like I said at the beginning of this live stream, creating your own lore by doing something that others haven't done is a very powerful idea. So there were freelance web designers, there were freelance graphic designers, there were freelance writers, but back then, freelance marketer was not really a thing. People knew of agencies, And that's really it, because marketing was more about buying an ad in a magazine, in a newspaper, buying an ad on a billboard, doing a TV commercial. Remember, the internet was just starting to pop off. There wasn't a vehicle to advertise online. And so there was no way to be a freelance TV commercial person. You needed an entire production. You needed to spend 50, 100, $1 million, 100,000 to $1 million to do a TV commercial. So I was a part of this emerging class of people who were very internet and digital savvy. Remember, I'd been tinkering with all the amateur and prosumer elements, buying a good camera, having a computer, editing a video, because I liked it, not because I wanted to make money. I liked it, right? So I remember in 2016 or 2017, I was really struggling. I didn't have a good job. I had left law school and I had graduated law school and I did not get a job as a lawyer. I didn't want to. I didn't like it. I did not enjoy my second year of law school. It was so painful. The first year was good. Everything's new, meet a lot of new people, do a lot of fun things, law school parties, etc. But year 2 was such a drag. And I changed my outcome by going on exchange in year 3. And that was fun. I moved to Hong Kong and I was going to school with all these, Cantonese speaking kids from Hong Kong who were probably going to be very rich and wealthy in Hong Kong. And there's this like foreigner guy sitting on the back reading Reddit posts and like trying to figure out how to start a YouTube channel. I remember making videos in my in my university, Hong Kong University, like dorm room. I remember going outside and having my tripod set up and making a terrible video and working through that process of speaking to the camera and trying to figure that whole thing out. And actually, that's correct. That's where I got my very first freelance marketing client, not my first OPMA client. So I'm glad I brought up Hong Kong, because now that I think about it, my girlfriend, or no, she was my wife at the time. We had been married for about 1.5 years, I think. She worked for Lululemon. And the interesting story about that is that I helped her get that job with a video. She had gone to 4 interviews and was rejected on the 4th interview. And I was surprised, because she was meant for this job. And they called it Community Connector. It was a mix of social media, in-person events, and being this community connector. And the job was in Hong Kong. And we really wanted her to get it so that when I went on exchange, she would have a really good job there. Lululemon was a very posh company at the time. So we made a video, a 3-minute video. We sent it to Lululemon. She got hired right away. And they're like, "Who made that video of you?" And it's like, "Oh, my husband." It's like, "We want to hire him too." I said, "No, I don't want to work for you. I don't care about yoga pants." So my wife was my first referee. She referred me. She knew how much I knew about different things, because I had started some blogs. I was writing blog posts because that's what you did at that time. That was more popular. And she referred me to an entrepreneur who had multiple businesses in Hong Kong, a very well-known female entrepreneur who had both restaurants, but she wanted to start a fashion blog. But she said, "How do I do SEO?" And so my very first client was this girl named Lindsay. And she was very cool. She was too cool for me. But that's where I elevated myself for the first time. I said, I've got to be cool. I've got to meet this person's level of expectations and cool. And so I went and talked with her and her partner. I was explaining, look, this is what you got to do. This is important. If you want, I can train you on the specifics. I'll show you how to use keywords. I'll show you how to implement them. And so she's like, well, what do you want to charge? And that was a difficult question for me at the time. And I came up with $2,000 US. I said, for $2,000, I'll meet with your content marketer, whatever they were calling it at the time, I don't know. And I said, I'll teach her how to do SEO. And that's what I did. I met with her in their office a couple times, and I answered some emails, and I showed them, here's how to add a plugin to your WordPress site. Here's where to put keywords. Here's what kind of keywords matter. Here's how to use things like keyword density. And here's how to do maybe some keyword research. And they went on to establish a very successful fashion blog in Hong Kong and the region, which I'm sure led them to many partnerships, opportunities, affiliate deals, who knows? So after I collected that money, I think it was pretty much a done deal that I said, I need to be in this industry. And so the first client you get will change your mindset about who you are. And that's really very important, is changing your identity from employee to freelancer. That's very important. And it's hard for some people because changing your identity requires changing your actions and how you behave. So I was kind of lucky because maybe I didn't have a very steady job that I was in the mindset of employee. I was like, no, I'm going to figure this out. But if you know my story, the problem was that my mom got cancer. And it was so weird. My dad was traveling to China for his work, and he stopped in Hong Kong. And that was a very weird thing. That's not something my dad would typically do. And he took us to his hotel where he was staying. He was staying at the nice Conrad Hotel in central Hong Kong. He sat us down and he said, you know, like, I've got some bad news. Like, your mom is actually not doing very well. It was very shocking. And, you know, I hadn't picked up on it because FaceTime was not really a thing yet. Maybe it was, but my mom didn't know how to use it. So I'd only really spoken to her on the phone or maybe an email. So that triggered me to leave Hong Kong. And, you know, Hong Kong wasn't cheap. I didn't have a lot of income. I had gone to Bali, to Taiwan, to Vietnam. I had explored some of these regions. Hong Kong's great for being central to travel Asia. But I was kind of done with it. I was okay about it. You know, rent was expensive. We had a 300 square foot apartment for $1,500 US back in that time. It's probably like much more now, but 300 square feet is incredibly tiny. And so I think maybe we were a bit tired of it. And my wife was not loving her job in the end. The Hong Kong culture is to work very, very hard. These people, similar to Japanese, like they work extraordinarily hard, very long hours. And I think, you know, it's a bit overwhelming for any woman. I think it's hard work. And I think like it takes a very certain class of person to be job oriented in that way. So I think we were both okay with going back to Canada and figuring it out, because we moved back in with my parents for a short amount of time, like a month, and then we found an apartment. And that's like when I started doing DoorDash and finding some random projects on Craigslist. But my mom passed like 30 days after we came back. And I want people to know that being a freelancer has benefits that you'll never know until you experience it. And maybe I wasn't a bona fide freelancer at the time, but I had freedom. And so I spent every single day with my mom, and I was administering her pain medication through an IV like 6 times a day. I was doing that. She had come home and was choosing to live out her remaining time at home. And so, you know, to be the person to provide that care and support for your family member is very valuable. Maybe some of you haven't encountered such an experience. And yes, it's very difficult and sad, no doubt about it. You know, for me, that's 10 years ago. But it's satisfying and fulfilling to have the time without having to request time off, without feeling like you are, you know, not getting paid correctly or something or whatever it is. I mean, I wasn't exactly worried about money at this time. And admittedly, in my early career, I had debt a lot. Like I definitely lived with a credit card bill to pay off every month. And, you know, I wasn't really afraid of that. I think that, you know, you have to build confidence in yourself that you will get cash and you will figure it out. You have to be that mindset. But I definitely had a struggle over those 2 years, whether it was from my mom passing and maybe not really dealing with that properly, whatever it was, it left me with some challenges. And I think like even me and my wife at the time were maybe struggling financially, and that was like bleeding into our relationship in many ways. And I remember like I needed to go live with my dad for a while. There was more room in the house. And I lived with my dad by myself, and I went into monk mode. And monk mode is very important if you're trying to break out as an entrepreneur, because monk mode is where you basically, all you do is work on your business. You go 100%, you don't think about other things, and it's hard, it's hard to do that. And it's always also not easy if you have a family or something like that. Like in this case, I was able to do it, but I would basically be listening to productivity podcasts and audiobooks nonstop. I was thinking about my offers. And this is before like Alex Hormozy. This is before so many different guides, information emerged. You're just trying to figure it out. Like there is not a lot of guidance at this time. And like I said, there is no such thing as a freelance marketer. And I don't know if that's what I was trying to be or what. Like I thought I was like a marketing consultant. But eventually push came to shove and I was out of time. I was running out of time. And I said, you know what? Like I might have to get a job. This sucks. I don't want to do that. And again, I'd been making blog posts. I understood how to make my own blog. I understood how to make like a little PDF lead magnet. I understood how to send emails through MailChimp. I knew how to make YouTube videos, and I wasn't successful in YouTube at all at this point. I had no popular videos, and so I knew how to make them. I knew how to upload them. I did not know how to get a lot of views or subscribers at the time, but I knew how to get like 100 views, and I knew how to be consistent, and I believed in it. I believed sort of in my head that, oh, maybe I'm just not the right person, or I'm not good enough for this, but somebody else might be, and I should help them do that. So that was quite of a long-winded intro, but it sets the stage of where I was at and why I was doing the things I was doing. And it led to my first, what I call OPMA client, one-person marketing agency, where you're working with someone, but it's not 100% predefined what you're going to do for them. It may have some sort of structure. There may be some routine developed, but they might ask you to do multiple things. And so it was with this girl who I had made her website a year before. Her and her partner had a training company, fitness, and they split. And so I liked her. I thought she was cool. She was friendly. She was very kind and easy to talk to. And I just decided to call her up and say, hey, like, remember I did your website? Remember we had that good experience? I made you the WordPress website. Like, do you need a new website? And I would kind of like to be your marketer for part-time work. And she just said yes right away. And I guess that was lucky that my first call was so easy, but I didn't even have a price really. I had something in mind, but she said like, how much and what are we gonna do? And I said, well, why don't I do 10 hours a month for you and I'll charge you $600 Canadian a month. Back then, the dollar was probably a bit more stronger. You could probably consider it maybe 500 US, something like that. And I think that is a great starting point because it's easy to say yes to. I think once you get into the 4-digit numbers, people are more uncertain. They start to think like, oh, like that's going to be my rent. That's almost as much as my rent. Like, how can I spend so much on a marketer? I don't even know you that well. I don't know what you can do. So if you don't have a lot of proof or portfolio or no one really knows you, you know, it might be better to start between like 500 and 999, something in that range. But for your first client, I would undercharge. That would be my edge. So I think that's the first big insight of today is to get your very first client, have an offer that's impossible to refuse, that is too good to be true almost, and make it better than they expect. So what I did for that girl is I would help her write a blog post every month, I think, maybe every week actually. She would write the overall blog and I would optimize it to be a bit more search friendly. And then I would post it on her website, and then I would send an email to her list. I built her website, and I also made her like a PDF lead magnet, and eventually I made her like a mini video course. And so those things all synergize, right? If you're putting out content every week or every month, and then you send an email, you're keeping your customers warm and nurtured. You're giving them value. If your blog reaches new people and someone reads it or someone shares it, they're going to see your lead magnet and get that for free and join the email list and be part of that cycle. If someone gets your lead magnet, they might buy your low ticket video course and give you some money. And I think this still works today. I think I still do this today. And I don't think that's really changed. I think that's something that's still very useful and beneficial. And that simplicity is worth a monthly fee. It's not easy to price that out. There's a mix of doing something once, and there's some things that need to be done every week. It's not easy to price that. You get into this very detailed like structure and contract, and you get locked into it, and no one knows what it really costs, and it's difficult. Whereas if you say to someone, look, I'm going to charge you $600 a month. I'm going to be doing this on a regular basis because that's driving you traffic, but I'll try to do one extra thing every month. Maybe it's your website. Maybe it's your lead magnet. Maybe it's your video course. And in this format, the benefit I see that people might not realize is as long as you're always making progress, as long as every month feels like something was done, nobody's going to question how fast you're going. Nobody's going to say, oh, that wasn't worth it, or you're too slow. The fact is, they don't know how long it takes. And so I think the power of a subscription model, which we recommend at Rich+Niche, the power of the OPMA is there's this secret knob that you can adjust, that if you feel you undercharged, slow down a bit. And if you feel you overcharged, speed up a bit because you don't want to lose them. And you have this intuitive sense about, oh, I think this person doesn't feel like they're getting value. I want to keep them. Let me do more. Or this person thinks they're getting so much value from me. I'm going to slow down a bit. Yet, no one's really counting or tracking your hours. What you can do on a monthly basis is send a simple report. Here's what I completed this month. And as long as there's like 4, 5, 6 things, they're like, great. You have to remember, I think a lot of people worry that these business owners are going to start using AI and not hire anyone. Like that couldn't be further from the truth. Business owners are busy people. It's not easy to have a business at any time of life. It's always been challenging. And so they don't have the time to learn. They don't have the time to worry about it. And they don't have the mental ability to strategize and oversee these components. That's why the full stack marketer is almost a bit of a project manager, someone who's organized over, hey, website, content, ads. If I keep this organized, and this is the first time we're going to hear about leverage, someone else is leveraging me. And when someone feels they're getting leverage from you, they're not going to stop. You rarely in life find leverage and then stop, because by nature, you're getting more than you put in. And so we could also say providing value. If I charged you $600 and you feel like you're getting value, even if I didn't bring you any money, in your mind, you're gaining more than the 600 you put out. Because when you hire me or you hire one of the students at Rich+Niche, you're not doing anything. We're doing it for you. We're managing everything. You don't have to manage the different people. You don't have to communicate to the different people. You just have to talk to me. And so you give me $600 or $6,000 and you feel like your business is running better because suddenly your marketing is consistent when it wasn't before, and that's actually probably leading you to positive business results, you're not going to quit. If I do a one-time project for you, like I make your website and I charge you $1,000 a month and I finish your website, well, what am I going to do in month 2, 3, and 4 if I'm still charging you $1,000 a month? That person's going to be like, well, you did the project. I don't need you anymore. I paid for the project. That's why it's important as an OPMA or a full stack marketer to get in with content and ads, because they're not a one-time project. They are a never-ending project. And that's really where the secret sauce begins, is that I realized, so content is good. Gary Vee was content. I was like, yeah, I agree, Gary, thank you. How do I do content? Ads are good, and especially in 2025, content and ads are merging. And if you read Alex Hormozi's email this week, he said exactly that the best advertisers are the content creators now. And that was not true 10 years ago. So we got a win as a full stack marketer. So how do you do some one-time projects so people are like, great, I don't have to go find someone else to figure that out. My marketer's taking care of that for me while they keep my business on point in terms of marketing. I worked for this female trainer for 14 to 16 months, and I don't remember why we stopped. I believe the reason we stopped is I got a lot more successful and I didn't want that role anymore. And so I probably turned that knob down, and maybe she wasn't feeling like it was right. And I think what happened is she's like, hey, why don't you, I know you're really busy. Why don't you help this other person? I'm going to work with them and you can kind of set them up. And it was very kind. There was kindness, candorness, support for one another. It's like, hey, you're getting bigger, you're moving on. Can you help me start working with this other person? And then for a couple of months, I think there was a bit of overlap. I helped their new marketer. And even throughout the years, that person would contact me and say, hey, how did you do this? Or how does this work? And she would always say, let me know if I owe you for this. So that was client number 1 for the OPMA. Female fitness trainer, 600 Canadian a month, blogging, email, and then things like website build, lead magnet creation, small video course editing, and setting up a course. Do you know how many people want to make a course? A lot. A lot of people want to make a course, and they don't know how. They don't know where to begin. And even if they could make a course, they don't know how to market it. It goes very well with the full stack because by nature, we handle media. We can edit a video. We can write a good title on that video. If you take my training, I show you how to use AI to make video so simple and straightforward. And video is something you want to feel very confident about. Oh, I'm so sorry you were interrupted by an ad. We got to pay for this. We got to pay for this office, I guess. Hope it was useful. So let's go to client number 2. Client number 2. So I was doing yoga with my wife in Vancouver. And we would go to this studio it wasn't posh, but it was cool. It's where hipsters went. And it was in this brick building. And there was a lot of good teachers there. You had good classes there. It was fun to be a part of that community. And there's this one teacher that I just thought she was so good. She was just, I think because I had lost my mom recently, like I was filling that space in my mind with like feminine, like leadership in some format or another. And she was older than me, and I just really appreciated her. And so this is a very important method of getting a client, is not being afraid to do things that are not related to your business where other people go. And a yoga teacher, you know, they don't make a lot of money, but here's what happened. I said, hey, like, I want to buy you a green juice and I want to talk to you and I want to learn about what you do and your business and how you make money. And I want to help you because that's what I do, is I help people like start online businesses or work on their local business. And she's like, that's good timing because I'm starting a new studio. And that's where it began, is there was fortunate timing. And I had just kind of chatted with her a couple of times about her situation, and there was no relationship yet. And that fell through and they never hired me. But they started a new studio and they got a partner and they found a really great spot and they were starting from scratch. That was like an existing studio. They were going to join it. And this one was a brand new situation. And this was a very interesting relationship. And they needed advice because yoga teachers are not exactly business experts. They don't come from that background. They're a lot more of a giving type archetype. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to create offers. And basically, I became like their CMO because I was responsible for anything related to marketing. I helped make posters. I designed their website. And eventually, I was helping them start a YouTube channel and an email list and a lot of the similar things. And I started off with them at $2,000 a month, but I was almost working full time for them at that time. I needed more money, and I pitched them like a substantial consulting retainer that would have me doing quite a lot. We eventually moved to $1,200, or maybe it's backwards. Maybe we started at $1,200 and then we went to $2,000. I don't remember. But I remember the $1,200 retainer was really about video. And so, look, when you're coming up, you should not be fussy about doing extra work. You need the experience, okay? And so I would never be upset if someone asked me to do something. I would never feel like, oh, this is unfair. If I'm getting a monthly retainer, you're my best friend. If I'm working remotely and you want to pay me every month, you can ask me whatever you want. You can ask me to go, pick up your dry cleaning. I'll probably try and do that. You can ask me to call, someone overseas for you to figure something out. I'll help you figure out how to do that. It's like, because at the time, I didn't think about it as OPMA. I didn't have that terminology in my mind. I thought of it as what I call executive virtual assistant. That I knew there was all these virtual assistants. I'd read the 4-Hour Workweek in like 2011, and Tim Ferriss was talking about hiring VAs from the Philippines. And I tried that, and they sucked. They couldn't do anything properly, and they needed so much guidance that it wasn't really worth it. Like, the training ability was low. The communication was difficult. I think they're better now and they're skilling up, but at the time it was very difficult to get a lot of value from a VA. Actually, the most success I ever had with a VA was helping me organize my wedding. Me and my wife got married in New York. We eloped, quote unquote, and we had a very tiny wedding. Maybe only like 6 people came. And I asked my VA to do all the research and help me book these different arrangements: limo driver, flower person, makeup artist, restaurant. Like, hey, go figure this out and let me know. Because I was in law school at the time. Got married between my first and second year of law school. And got married in Central Park in the rain on the Bow Bridge, near the Bow Bridge, in December. And that's a funny thing, is that I launched my YouTube channel the day before I left. I don't know why. I said, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So I got married on December 16th, 2012, just about 13 years ago. And that's how long I've been doing YouTube. Because if you check my channel, it says started YouTube on 12/12/12. I like numerology and the power of numbers. And so I started my YouTube channel on December 12th, 2012. I don't know why. That's an interesting story. Forgot where I was going with all that. I'm on my second client doing YouTube. I am working with these people. And guess what? These clients have led me to my newest client 13 years later, or whatever, 10 years later. The client I'm working with now is an online yoga studio, and these people are affiliated with that studio. So another insight is you work hard for people. You prove to them that in their world, no one knows more than you about marketing. Look, I don't know the people you know, and the people you know don't know me. They know you. And so you are potentially the smartest marketer in their life. And so when it comes to marketing, they should be like, aha, Sandra, aha, Mike, aha, Milos, like I'm going to talk to him. And if you do a good job for them, at some point later on, they'll come back. So that client wasn't exactly like a fully remote client. At this time, I didn't care about being remote. I was only making at this time $1,800 to $2,000 a month. I had my $600 client, and I had a $1,200 client, and that's all I was doing. And I was living in Vancouver, and I would go make videos with them. I would go to their studio and take some photos. I would go with their owner and film him talking about yoga. Did I make my niche yoga? Did I claim my niche? No, none of this there's no niche at this time. There's helping people that you know and establishing yourself in their world as the most important marketer. Now, when I was in Vancouver, I can't really remember, but I know I met up with at least 6 to 10 other entrepreneurs. For some of them, I charged them 1 hour of consulting, maybe $200. For some of them, maybe I talked to them and pitched them an idea, and maybe they did it and maybe they didn't. For some of them, they hired me for one-off video projects. I used to work with this e-commerce company called Cocktail Box Co. They're probably still out there. I think they sold their business now, but they were making these Amazon style cocktails in a box, and I taught them how to market it. I made videos for them that looked good. I helped take photos of the product that looked good. Again, my interest in media made me want to do these things. I said, I want to help you do this. And I'm sure I charged them something ridiculously low, maybe like, okay, $700 or $1,200. And I remember those guys, they negotiated hard. Like, they didn't have a lot of money. And it's not that they didn't want to work with me, it's they didn't have the money to pay. And they were running an official business. They didn't just want to take it on their credit card, perhaps. So at this time, I was leveraging Vancouver, my network, people I know. I was just everywhere I went. I say, hey, can I ask you about your marketing? Or what do you do for marketing? How are you marketing this business? And not every time is that conversation going to start up. But a lot of times you will. And it's important, like I said, to shift your identity, that's what you do now. You ask people. And if you're in a community, whether it's your local where you live, coffee shops, and that will come to a big client I got at my local coffee shop later on, or it's the places you go, doing the yoga studio, going to the fitness gym, going to a hair salon. I tried to close a deal with my hairstylist. It didn't go through. She said my portfolio wasn't established, and I don't think she was really serious about what I pitched her. I told her she should make a course, and she didn't want to do it because at the time I didn't even have like a personal website. Again, you see how I was getting into this without a business, so to speak. I didn't have business cards. I didn't have websites. I didn't have a marketing about myself. I just talked to people. And I think it's important to solve this pathway first and almost validate. And you see, when your price is so low because you're starting, it's not like you need all of this marketing material to win the deal. People are like, oh, you're going to do that for me, which I know I need, and you're only going to charge me that. I'm getting something. I'm going to get value. I'm going to get leverage as long as you're not terrible. And the way you talk about how to write a blog post, the way you talk about how to make an Instagram carousel, the way you talk about building a lead magnet, they will sense your authority. The language you use will be above them, and they'll say, oh, you are an expert. I don't mind working with you. It sounds like you've learned a lot, and I'd like to get to know you. Like, the bottom line is, I mean, and I might talk more about this later if I have time. I can see how time's flying, but someone was just asking me last night, like, are we becoming obsolete? Is it bad to be a marketer right now because of AI? I think people are often in a bubble where they're surrounded by other people, or they go on Twitter and they just see all these people doing. We are the 1%. The action takers are the 1%. 99 people aren't doing anything. 99% of people aren't even started. And even if AI does replace some things, there is such an immense opportunity for marketers who have multiple skills, who implement AI, who are strategists and creatives that go above and beyond what AI is possible. So there is such an opportunity at hand. I, at this point, said, can I go remote? Can I leave Vancouver? Because I was making enough money, perhaps, but I wasn't affording the Vancouver lifestyle. So I went on a trip with these people, and I made a video there. It was beautiful, a little vlog or something. It's called the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia. And it's this small little 3-town region. You have to take a ferry to get there. I went there for just a trip, 1-day trip. I loved it. I moved there 2 months later. And I wanted to be more remote because I wanted to be at the ocean, the beach. I wanted to be in a more beautiful surroundings. I didn't want to live in Chinatown, Vancouver anymore. And I was starting to grind now. I was starting to make better YouTube videos. I was getting into what you would call VSLs, video sales letters. I knew how to present a bit of an offer on a video. So I was starting to market myself now, and I was trying to become magnetic. And one of the ways you can become magnetic is making content. And before that, my third client was word of mouth. When I was in monk mode and beyond, I had found a community online. And this is very important, to join online communities and bring value to them. This is leverage. This is important. They were interested in high ticket sales. I found this group of people, maybe 8 people, who had all gone to Dan Locke's high ticket closing seminar. And they were doing role play where they would practice selling while they were looking for jobs as high ticket closers. And I joined them somehow. I don't even remember, but I knew one person there, and they kind of introduced me. And I was like being this funny kind of guy who was role playing with them. I would often be the fake client. I just didn't have anything better to do. But when the time was right, they would ask me a question about marketing. And they knew me in the group as sort of not the sales guy, but the marketer. And when I moved to the Sunshine Coast, I was rewarded with all that effort I had put into that community. And someone said, hey, I have a referral for you from someone I met at a Dan Locke seminar. And so he connected me with a doctor. And this doctor sold high ticket services, and he had gone to learn how to close deals for his high ticket services. He was a foot doctor. What do you call a foot doctor? Put it in the chat. I can't remember. Foot doctor, podiatrist. He fixed people's feet, bunions, steel toe or something like that, heel toe. I don't know. There's all these different words. And it took 2 calls to close a deal with him at $2,000 US a month. And this was a life-changing client. And when you get your first $2,000 a month client, your life will be changed forever. You will see the world differently. You will experience the world differently. And this is a key milestone. And the first call, I just explained to him what I do. And I said, hey, he's like, how much does it cost? And what are you going to do? And like, how would it work? I said, and I used my previous experiences. I said, well, based on what I can see, you need a new website and you need a lead generation system. You need to get leads, but you also need content. You don't have a YouTube channel yet. So I think we should do both. I think you should pay me $1,200 a month to set your YouTube channel up, edit all your videos, make thumbnails, write the descriptions, make titles. And I think we should do $800 a month, and I'll work on your website and send emails for you and do those type of tasks. So every month is content, but there's always some room to do all these different things, because you see, the full stack is critical because there's so many different ingredients to a successful online business or any business and any lead generation system. One day it's the landing page. The next day it's the lead magnet. The next day it's the email sequence. The next day it's fixing the offer and the checkout system. The next day it's making a coupon code. The next day it's writing copy. The next day it's a new landing page because the owner comes up with a new idea. And then there's a new email campaign. And so this guy was making $600K a year. So do you think he was feeling leverage spending $2K with me and not having to do all this marketing? Because he kind of understood marketing. He says he spent $150,000 on his education. That's part of his lore. And I believe him. But because he is an older male, he's Korean, which I don't think has anything to do with it. I love Koreans. He has an amazing restaurant, by the way, in Chicago, Mint. Bulgogi, bulgogi. He didn't have an aesthetics style quality about him. And also his English was not perfect. He would write emails with grammatical errors. He would design things that looked bad. So I saved him from all of that. And I helped him really become a more established personal brand. Now he has a very nice YouTube channel. Not huge, but established. He has a flowing email list. He had a good website. And I think he graduated many more times since I worked with him. And he has called me back almost every year to say, hey, can I work with you again? And I say, I'm too expensive for you now, TJ. I'm sorry. I'll find someone else for you because I don't do what I used to do at that price anymore. And, he just loved working with me. He said, Rich, I've never found someone like you. Since we worked together, I've never found someone who understood me. Trust me, this guy loves AI. He still wants me. There is this ability as a marketer, again, I have no niche, to listen to people, to understand what they want, to understand who they are, and to help them express that. He invited me to Chicago. He paid for my trip to Chicago to come to his conference. He was speaking. I made a nice video of him speaking at the conference. I made like a promo reel of him, and I helped him capture a ton of great media that he used for many years after that. So not every marketer can also be like a videographer. Of course, I have training in that. But if you can, don't be shy about doing that. But that's definitely not necessary. And that's not why he loved working with me per se. It's easy to find a videographer. I think he liked working with me because I made him look good. I made him feel good. I made him feel like there would be no mistakes. I made him feel confident in what he was doing. And like I said, maybe I was wildly undercharging back then. And so he felt like a lot of value. So that was my third client. And I ended up going back to Asia with these 3 clients. And that's when I launched my first training. I knew that I knew so much at this time that other people did not know. And I could sense that even the basic funnel system was so essential for other people to learn. So do you know what I did? Is I hosted a webinar and I handpicked the people I wanted to attend. And I didn't send an email blast. I didn't run an ad. I say, hey, you need to come to my webinar. I called these people, I emailed people, I say, you need to come. And you know who those people were mainly? The people from my community, the Dan Locke high ticket closers. I said, you guys will be better off if you know marketing and sales. So why don't you come to my training? And I only charged them $900 for a 12-week training. I think one person got a special deal where I coached them for a year, I think for $1,800. Something like that. Anyways, that was my first experience in delivering education to others because I knew I had accessed a number of projects in my own life through my clients that other people need to see what's going on here, that this was a key unlock, this information, how this works. If you don't know how this works, you're probably not getting that much leverage in your business. So if you're training with me, if you're doing full stack marketer, if you're learning to build a funnel, what you're doing is mastering automated lead generation and the building of that system from escape to arrival. How do I get a stranger to opt in and become a customer? How do I use lead magnets? How do I use automated emails? How do I make money while I sleep? That's leverage. In the past, they have to call. Every person gets a call. Every person, it's manual. Everything is taking a lot of time. You need a whole sales team. And so AI can help us do little bits of this. It cannot orchestrate a lead generation machine which is contextual to a particular client with a particular offer. Yes, you could go type in, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. It can give you some advice, but there is no machine. There is no automated system that just gets click and set up yet. Maybe individual parts could be supported by AI, but I don't see when that's going to happen. It's a long ways away where not only is the marketing good enough, you know how many people are trying to use ChatGPT to write their copy these days? And people are like, oh, this is just written by ChatGPT. I don't even want to read this. This is not connecting with me. And so most of my top copy, I don't use ChatGPT. Although I thought it was pretty good and it's getting cool, I think that my customers, my people want something authentic. And so I try to stay as authentic as possible. I think that's an edge. I think being a good copywriter is an edge. So that's how I got my first 3 clients. If you'd like me to carry on with this, put a 1 in the chat. If you'd like me to go into some other topics and get away from my client stories, put a 2. I'm going to take a short break right now. Why don't I just play you guys a little commercial and I'm going to take a quick break.
So I've been trying to start a digital marketing agency for months. I'm not sure what my offer is, what people actually want, how to do this by myself without taking up too much time because I want my freedom. And then I saw the one-person marketing agency book on Instagram for $2.97. I bought it, and then I used that framework to lock in a $1,000 a month client days later. Super easy to sell, super clear framework. It's amazing. My client's excited, I'm excited. So I highly recommend the Rich+Niche system, the academy. Now I'm going through all the courses and making sure I've got my digital marketing stuff up to spec so that I can rock it for my clients and just have a side gig that makes me a couple $1,000s a month with very little work. Highly, highly recommend.
All right, thanks for giving me just a quick break there. I see not too many of you are deeply, deeply engaged with the chat. And so I'll just make a decision here. I would like to tell you more about some of these clients, but I realize like I'm doing quite an in-depth analysis of what happened. I do want to talk a little bit more about the functional aspects of getting clients, even though I believe the stories I'm telling you are filled with more powerful insights. It's more important that you know what I did than perhaps I tell you what to do, but hey, it is what it is. I see some of you want more stories, but let's just quickly talk about some of these mechanical elements, and then maybe we'll go back to stories and I can kind of relate some of this for you. So this is the Hormozy 4 method quadrant, and this is the 4 ways to get people to work with you, to get customers, to get clients, whatever it is. At the top, there's 2 columns, people we know and strangers. And on the left side, there's one-to-one and one-to-many. So the first method is you reach out to people you know. And that's really what I was doing, going one-to-one. I didn't know how to reach out to strangers at the time. I said, let me just go to people I know. Let me go to my community. Let me join a community and then pitch them. And I was starting to pick up on this idea of leverage, which is this one-to-many aspect. Leverage here is that you make it once, but many people can see it. Even in this live stream, maybe 500 to 1,000 people will watch it. By the end of it, I'm making it once. It's not like I have to tell each and every one of you my story and this one by one. Think of how long that would take. That would take me 1,000 hours. Now I'm making a 2-hour live and it's going to go and it's going to have 10,000 hours of watch time. So making content makes sense because it's free. And I think people forget that is that you can start today and you don't need anything else. And now people struggle with this because it's like, well, what do I say? I'm not good enough. Imposter syndrome. I don't have a camera. I don't have lighting. I don't have a good place to make content. Yada, yada, yada. We get tons of mental roadblocks here, but these 2 are where most people should start. Really. These 2 is where most people should start. Reaching out to your warm network. In my course, OPMA Mastery, we talk about the bullseye method, and I'll quickly just explain it to you, is that one of the tricks is not to ask your friends to be your client. It's to ask your friends, do you know anyone who might need a digital marketer? Most people know at least one person, and the straightforward method is, hey, John, do you know anyone who might need a marketer? Yeah, Rich, I can think of someone. Jerry, he might need a marketer. He's running a business and he told me he needs a website and he wants to start an Instagram, etc. I say, okay, John, tell you what, I'm going to reach out to Jerry, but would you mind calling Jerry or messaging Jerry for me and just let him know that I'm going to be connecting with him? And then let me know as soon as you do that, and then I'll reach out. So you get someone you know to build a bridge for you. You get someone you know to build in some trust for you. And you turn a stranger into a warm lead by having that person start the process for you. That's essentially the bullseye method. So I would be doing that. I would make a list of every person in your phone, every person on your social media, every person in your inbox. That's the real way to do it. And I remember one of my students saying, you know, Rich, you told me to do this and I thought I did it, but I didn't. I actually just made a small list of people I could think of. When I actually went and looked at my whole inbox, my whole social media, my whole phone contact list, I had a lot more people. And when I followed that method, I got a lot more business than I expected. So don't underestimate the simplicity and speed of the bullseye method. Making content, I would start doing it because you don't need followers anymore. You just need to figure out a method that's going to bring you your target client and figure out what that method is by doing it. Having a bias for action. defaulting to action, I would start an Instagram account, I would start a YouTube account, I would start a TikTok, I would start an X, start a Substack, start a Facebook page. Just start it, own it. Try them. Not all at once, maybe one this week, another. See if you can sniff out something that works for you. You know, we talk about ikigai for many years, and I think there's some ikigai element to this, that you have to enjoy the content you make. I like being here. If I didn't have 2 kids and a wife, I would be sitting here 8 hours a day and just doing this. I love answering questions. And you know, I just want to say something right now, guys. I sense that we're getting a broader audience these days. I've made some videos about other topics, and I think not everyone knows me that well. But let me tell you something. If someone's willing to come on live and answer questions without a script, they are much more likely someone you can trust. If someone only makes video sales letters and they never answer questions live and they never come on a live, they are purely a scripted person selling you something, there is no guarantee you can trust that person. I am here. You can ask me anything you want. I will tell you right here with no planning what's the real deal. And I believe another part of that is the person who answers the most questions deserves a lot of credibility. The more questions you can answer in your content, the more people are going to trust you. But I was just saying that I enjoy this, and so I do this. I've been doing this for many years. I took some breaks. I had some children. That's a difficult side quest, but I always love live. And in 2026, one of my goals is to maybe have my own private studio, because it's so affordable in Paraguay that I can have an extra studio for like $2,000 a year and just fully set up for a YouTube studio, walk in, go live, have a show, give value, answer some questions, have fun with it. So my point was that you need to enjoy the content you make. So try a TikTok video, try an Instagram carousel, try a long form YouTube video, try a Substack blog, try writing X posts. No one's gonna see it, but maybe you'll figure out what you like, and maybe something might catch on. You know, typically when you start some of these algorithmic based accounts, like X, like TikTok, you do get views right away because the system is trying to show you, hey, you can do this. You're going to get some views. Keep going, because they want to keep you there. So let's move on to strangers, which is what I see a lot of people trying to do without doing these other two and taking advantage of the trust ring of people they know in their warm circle. Don't skip that if you can. But let's say you are completely friendless and you don't know anyone and you can't make content for some reason. Okay, here's your other two options. You can reach out to the people you don't know, and this is called cold calling or cold email. And in a second, I think I'll show you an example of 2 cold emails that I just screenshotted. I like them and I want to show them. And then there's running ads. Now, running ads is the most high leverage, scalable activity in business. There's no other way to reach so many people. But the problem is it costs money. And that's what's difficult, is that most people when they're starting don't have money. And when you're starting, you aren't clear enough about what you do. You aren't confident enough pitching. You don't have all the marketing materials. And so you really can't afford to waste money on ads. So I think ads is the last thing a freelancer should be doing. If you want to build an agency, that's different. If you're going to build a team, that's different. If you've got some money, that's different. But if you're a freelancer, how many clients can you really take? 3, 5, maybe 10? Maybe 10. At one point in my career, I had 10 active clients. Now, they all were different price. They all did different things. Some were consulting, But I remember like, okay, I have to worry about all 10 of these people. That was right before I had kids. As soon as I started having kids, I really brought it back. And I tried to do more high leverage activities in my life. So running ads can be powerful, but it takes time to get the right ad. It takes time to learn the right system to sell people who see you on ads. Running ads will bring you a broader set of people, and it will be harder to close them. They won't know you. They won't trust you. They'll have objections. You don't have the clout. You don't have the reviews. There's so many things working against you as running ads. And primarily, I just wouldn't want to spend all that time and money to figure that out, to just be like, well, I've got my 5 clients. Let me go turn my ads off now. The point of doing ads is to spend more and more and more every single week. That is the point of ads, and that is what is meant by scalable. If I can increase my budget every week, I'm on the right track. If when I increase my budget, I make more money, I'm on the right track. So really be thoughtful if running ads is the right thing to do. I think people like running ads because it feels easy. It's like, oh, my ad is running. It's like, well, how many clients have you really brought in? Just because people opt in doesn't mean they're going to be your clients. Ads is notorious for bringing in vanity metric mindsets. Oh, look at my ad. It's getting a lot of clicks. You cannot deposit those clicks in your bank account. And so having conversations with people is more powerful. It's less scalable though. And I think probably the best overall idea that still is kind of leverageable is going to events, conferences, meetups, and communities where you're the only marketer. Don't go to marketing conferences. Go to other conferences where you can talk to 20 people in 2 hours, give them your card, let them see your website, scan your QR code. That to me is a very good idea. Real quick, if you want to do cold email, I'll be honest, I think most of it is spam. But I liked these 2 emails I got recently. I'm going to read them to you and we're going to look at the structure really quick because I think that sending a cold email can be effective. It says, "Hi, Rich. I'll keep this quick. I'm Keely, and I'd love to be a go-to creator for Rich+Niche Digital Marketing Academy when you need high-performing UGC-style ads. I'm based in London. I've created social ad content for 90-plus brands, including Amazon, blah, blah, blah. What makes me different is blah, blah, blah. Here's my portfolio." I just enjoyed reading this email. I thought it was direct. I thought it brought up a unique service that I don't see. It gave me proof that they're successful. And if I'd like to work with this person, I think I know what they do. And I think that there's, a bit of a sense of passion. I mean, it says, "My husband also does it." So you get a built-in creator duo. I just liked this overall email, and I'm not going to reply because I don't really want this service right now, but I just felt like, hey, this is a good, trustworthy email about someone who's doing an interesting service. Here's another email that I really liked, and I did reply. "Hello, Rich. I'll skip the fake AI personalization and get straight to the pitch." Now, I personally hate that intro. I don't like this intro, but the offer that's about to come, I really like it. He said, "Are you running monthly promos to your email list? If not, you're leaving $20,000 to $200,000 a month on the table." That is pressing a pain point for any business owner. Say, hey, you're not using your email list enough. You're not getting every squeeze of the juice that you could be. And here's where it gets good. Said, "That said, I can help with this working on a pure commission basis, which means no retainer, no setup costs, no hidden fees. I'll handle everything, writing promo emails in your brand voice that your audience will love, and you only pay me a small cut of whatever sales I bring you. Interested? If so, reply more info and I'll shoot over a short message. I did reply. I said, give me more info. So I want to talk about a couple things here. When you're brand new and you are not established and no one really knows you, working on a performance basis can be a good idea. And this person's smart. They're targeting someone who has a substantial email list and they believe I can make $20,000 a month extra using their campaigns. And I actually kind of agree that that is probably something that I could utilize. And so they want 20% of what they bring in. What's interesting, and I think it's important to note, is they don't use any links. I think that is helpful. It's called a soft CTA. If so, reply more info and I'll shoot over a short message replying everything. I think this is a decent cold email. It got my attention, steal the framework, but it's not exactly what we do as OPMA. If I was doing a cold email for OPMA, what I would do is say, hey, are you drowning in marketing tasks or not even getting to them at all? Do you wish there was one person who could handle everything for you? I'm a specialized full stack marketer, which means I can help you with your website, your content, and your ads all for a single price. And right now, here's my price point that I can offer you, and even something better. Maybe you give them a guarantee. Maybe you say, hey, if you don't like my work after 14 days, you don't have to pay anything. Another powerful thing about OPMA is that you can cancel anytime. You know, you're not locked into a marketing retainer like some of these other agencies. But personally, I don't love cold email. And even though I liked these ones, 9 out of 10 cold emails, I report them as spam. Because even this is spam. Because it says, I'll skip the fake AI personalization. Look, you're not supposed to skip the personalization, because this exact same email is going to everybody except for the name. The name is the only personalization. If that person is not having me on their email list and they don't personalize it, it is technically spam. And the only reason I like this email is technically because I kind of like this offer. I kind of do want someone writing emails for me who only charges a commission of what they sell. To me, that is value. I don't have to do any work, and I only pay when we're successful. And so as marketers, this person's an email marketer, lead generation is one of our main things we do. And it's relatively easy to get paid per lead. So if you feel like, hey, I'd like to do performance-based, you will close more deals, but you might not get paid if you're not very good. I don't want to spend any more time on cold email. Last thing to say about the 4-method quadrant is that if you don't do these things yourself, you can get other people to do it for you. So your customers can do these things for you. Your employees can do these things for you. You can have affiliates and agencies. But honestly, I don't think this is that useful to most people. I think this is more for businesses that are a bit more established. You really need to work on this. You need to pick one of these squares, and really, you should do it every single day for at least 2 hours, if not 4 hours. If you don't have any clients, you should spend 4 hours a day trying to get clients. It's that simple. It's that simple, guys. You want clients, but you don't actually do anything that gets you clients, and that's the problem. Let me answer a couple questions from the chat. It says, hi, Rich, trying to move to an OPMA model. I signed up for a call next week. What are your thoughts about niches, especially bleeding edge tech companies and marketing to marketing departments? And how about warm emails instead of cold emails? Well, what's a warm email? Like there's no such thing as a warm email. There's either an email list I guess that's what you mean warm, but cold email means, hey, you've never heard of me. I'm going to reach out to you. And that's the common way. I don't know what you mean by warm emails. I absolutely think you can have a niche, but I believe I've spent a lot of time in my academy explaining to people that you don't need one. And this comes back to, if you have 5 clients on retainer, why do you need a niche? A niche is helping you create a productized service where everyone in the niche almost gets the exact same thing. And every person in the niche gets the same sales pitch for the same niche problems. If you're a restaurant and your niche is restaurants and I'm talking to you, I'm not going to talk to you about lead magnets the same way I talk to you as an info creator. For a restaurant, I'm going to talk to you about how do we increase traffic to the restaurant and how do we get people to come back to the restaurant and what offers should we run to people so that they come in for the first time or the second or third time. Niches help us formulate a routine, a standardization about how we sell, about how we deliver. The whole concept of OPMA is breaking that open and saying there are no preset deliverables. You make a request and I do it. And I'm doing almost everything that you could possibly need because in 2025, 1% of us are just really skilled. We can make a website just as good as everyone else without the people who pay $50,000 for a super special website. We can make content and edit a video the same way as everybody else. We can create an ad the same way as every agency ever made an ad. There's no more secrets. And now you have AI, and that makes it even more true. And if I only need 5 clients, why do I want to spend all this time perfecting a system that I don't need a system that's complex? Here's the math that we talked about. We're going to talk about some math. If I need 5 clients and I'm an OPMA, I'm going to close 33% of my sales calls. What does that mean? I need 15 showed up sales calls, which means I actually need 20 to 30 booked calls. So if I book 30 calls with targetable entrepreneurs who would like my service, 20 to 15 of them will show up. If I speak to 20 to 15 of them and I close 1 out of 3 of them on a $2,500 a month retainer, I'm going to be making $7,500 a month because I closed 5 people. No, that's not right. $12,500 a month at $2,500. 5 people, 30 conversations. Do you need a niche to go arrange 30 conversations? Do you need a complex sales system or an advertising plan to have 30 booked calls? I don't think so. And that's my position on it. If you want to build an agency with 100 clients, absolutely you need a niche. Because to get to that scale, you cannot be having different conversations every day because then you'll never be able to train your sales team. You'll never be able to train your delivery team because everyone needs something different. As an OPMA, we thrive off it being different. As marketing consultants and marketing experts and freelancers, we thrive on the variation. And so we can fill more slots. We can move to different places. You could be a freelance marketer who says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to one conference every month of different topics. In the spring, I'm going to the boat show. In the summer, I'm going to the health show. In the winter, I'm going to the Christmas show, whatever. One conference a month. And then I'm also going to join one community every month. And I'm also going to make 3 pieces of content every month that are high quality. That's your marketing. You would get enough people that you would speak to 10 people in 3 to 6 months, maybe 30 people. It really depends on your skill level, your thoughtfulness, your agency level. How high agency are you? Like I like to tell people, if you go to jail call me and I'll get you out. You know how there's some people you can just never rely on to do it correctly? You know how there's some people who just couldn't even figure out how to put IKEA furniture together? I put IKEA furniture together without the instructions. I don't read instructions. I don't need instructions. I just figure things out. And that's what makes me a bit unique and special, is that I am the Michael Scofield of Prison Break. I have the blueprints tattooed on my Miro board. I have the answers. I've done the thinking. And yes, that's probably a very low percentage of people. But you must, I didn't start out like this. I became of the mindset that that's the identity I want. Problem solving, any situation, I'll figure it out. I will bake a cake with a key inside of it for you. I will, spray the chemical on the fence until it slightly corrodes so you can sneak out. I think that's important. I'm just trying to say, like, as a freelance marketer, one of your values is that you can work with anyone. And that's what I've done. I'll get back to my story shortly. We've got maybe about 30 to 40 more minutes, but I have no niche and I never had one. And you know what? When I tried to create one is when I felt the least authentic. Oh, let me put in my bio that I only work with real estate agents. Oh, let me put in my bio that I only work with high-tech marketing SaaS. Like, you're trying to force your identity. I say your niche chooses you. You don't get to choose a niche. Your niche chooses you when you gain such high amount of specialized knowledge, you have no business doing anything else. It's like, why would you do anything else? You know everything about that. Be very careful about rushing to choose a niche. Take advantage of the fact that your clients are going to pay you every month. I have two clients since the last 2 years. One of them pays me about 5,000 Canadian every month. One of them pays me 10,000 Canadian every month. Actually, 12,000 or so. It's like 7,500 USD. Different niches. One is in manufacturing, and one of them is in yoga and online education. And I never claim those are my niches. Let's get back to some of my stories, because I think some of this stuff is going to come round circle. Let me check I talked about the 4 primary methods. I've talked a little bit about leverage. Let's talk a little bit about targets and magnetism and some of these other elements. I talked about spam. Like, most cold outreach is spam. People are just doing such a poor job. The key to not being spam is to know the person well enough that you can personalize an email and you know the problem they're likely suffering from. And, that's important. I think most people doing cold outreach are spam, and I don't think it's very good. I think using your warm network makes a lot more sense. So I definitely, at this stage of the game, had multiple clients that I can't really remember that well that were less of OPMA clients. They were more one-off projects. Oh, Rich, can you make me my website? Oh, Rich, can you consult me on this issue? Oh, can you help me design the right eBook or lead magnet? I definitely had those and I don't remember them well. But the ones in my book, I do remember well. And my 4th client was a SaaS startup. And it was actually they were like celebrities. There was this girl I followed on Twitter at the time, and she was a famous poker player / celebrity / person. And I liked following poker. I've always enjoyed it. I think poker as this last ditch remote income that, like, if I have no skills that are usable, I can gamble my way to success. It's kind of like a fantasy idea, but so she was this poker player, and she went on Twitter and she's like, does anyone know a good marketer? I was like, oh, that's an interesting question. That's for me. And I replied her. And that's it. I said, hey, I believe I can help you. I'm a marketing consultant. I have a background in digital marketing. Why don't we set up a call and I can see what I can help you with? And this got big. This wasn't technical OPMA, but it kind of was because it was a variety of tasks. But I don't think there's that much to this story. The story was that I followed someone on Twitter and wasn't afraid to shoot my shot. And to be honest, I liked this girl. Like, I find her attractive. I think she's funny. And it's like, man, how awesome would it be if I can work for her? And, she was married or getting married to like a pretty, not a superstar basketball player, but he was like a well-known college basketball player or something. And they were in the insurance business and they wanted to create an insurance app. And so they needed a website, a logo, brand strategy, and everything that they need at the beginning. They didn't need content yet. They didn't need an email list yet. They needed ads maybe as we got further along. But essentially, this project was slightly different because now that I think about it, even though it was high paying, it was contractual. I laid out for them the different things we would do for them. Build their website, design their logo, create a brand strategy. And I think this is where I was getting to a new level of almost being an agency because they ended up paying about $50,000 over 6 months. And I hired a few people to do the work. I didn't know how to make logos. So I hired someone from Rich+Niche to do the logo. I didn't know how to make Figma and Webflow web designs. I hired someone at Rich+Niche to do that who was already learning that. And I took care of a lot of the other things, more so the content and advertising strategy. But I was there as sort of this central point, this person who spoke for our team, a person who joined meetings and gave advice and explained things to them. And so there's not much else to tell about that story. Their app was not good. They did not start with an MVP. They went too far and they had funding. They had raised funds from various people. I don't know. They were kind of semi-celebrities, so I don't think it was hard for them to do that. But they kind of wasted their money hiring me because their app wasn't ready to be marketed. Their app didn't function very well. Their app didn't really do what it claimed to do. And that's not my problem. Being a marketer, it's not our job to guarantee any result because we don't design the product in most cases. And they had an awesome logo. We made a great logo. We made like 50 variations and they picked the one they like. We had a great brand strategy and we came up with a great name and a great domain name and it was popping. The landing page looked good. But once you got into the app, it left a lot to be desired. They wanted to really change how insurance was purchased. And they were up against like Geico and these larger brand names that were really established. They thought they had this technology that by having a form and asking you some questions that they could like pair you with a right insurance agent and that they were going to work with agents. And they were essentially like a lead generation tool, essentially. And it just wasn't that well thought out. But I didn't really know. It was their vision. I was there to serve their vision. And the next client is more interesting, and I want to move on to that. And it was a bit more of me acting like an agency because this client, their rate, it was a subscription. It was $10,500 a month. And it was a law firm, and it was definitely the biggest client I'd work with in my career. And they struggled with Google Ads. And they found me through word of mouth from one of my smaller clients that I didn't mention in these stories. Along the way, someone referred me this Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach. And he was working out of Los Angeles. And I built him a website. I made him a lead magnet. I went to LA and I filmed him and made a video about him. And he became very successful because of my work. He ranked #1 in Google because his competitors didn't really understand SEO. And he got a lot of clients that he had leverage in the sense that, well, I'm so busy, I'm getting so many clients, I'm going to raise my price. And he told me that he felt he was the highest paid jiu-jitsu coach in LA. But he only paid me $300 a month. But I wanted to help him because he was such a nice guy. He was like one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I was just interested in it. I said, hey, you don't have a budget. Oh, he probably paid me to build his website, and then he paid me like $300 a month for like ongoing advice. And he did a lot of the work himself. He wanted to learn to be an online creator as well. And he eventually kind of got better, but he had a lot of mindset issues. Let's just say that. So he referred me to this law firm, and they said, hey, can you help me fix our Google ads? We're spending $50,000 a month on Google ads. And I was like, well, that's scary, but I'd love to try. You see, the way I approach getting clients is no fear. I will figure it out. Like I said, I can always ask someone, do some research, learn as I go. As a freelancer, you cannot try to know everything. And it's not easy to stay up to date on all the different platforms. Although I believe my training really fast tracks your knowledge in many key areas, you don't need to be a perfect expert on every single thing that we cover. But when it comes up, you should go do a little bit of digging and sharpen up that pencil for that particular service. So I had barely run a lot of Google ads. But the thing about Google ads is it doesn't matter how much you spend. It's the exact same process. And that's why your targets should be the wealthiest targets you can find. Because whether they're spending $50,000 a month or $500 a month, it's the exact same process. So this is where I really started. I mean, I had already done it, but charging for an audit before I ever did any work. I said, you know, the audit allows us to find out what is the big problem here. And the audit is a great way for us to have a conversation about what I could be doing for you in the future. And so I said, my audit costs $5,000 and it's comprehensive. And I will evaluate your brand, your customer journey and lead generation system, and your content. I will evaluate it all for you and tell you what is sort of the challenge. And in their case, they said, well, we really just want to evaluate the Google ads. And I could have been wrong, but I went into their Google ads and saw a lot of different problems that I perceived were problems. And I said, you know, I wouldn't do it this way. And I said, you know, the real problem is your brand. It's ugly. You don't look good. You need to rebrand. Like, that is the problem, is that you're in such a competitive space. You need new photos. You need a new website. Your website's crap, you know, and then, you know, your ads will probably work better. So I hired a few people. I hired a writer who wrote content for them. I hired a social media strategist who came up with content posts for them. And then I was designing, and I had a graphic designer helping me make the post. Because at this point I was kind of busy. I had a lot of clients. And if you're going to pay a lot, you have the ability to leverage other people. And that's what's interesting about OPMA, is it's a bit of a stepping stone to having your own agency. I think starting your own agency without having done these things before is difficult, because you don't know how long things take. You don't know how much to charge. And so being that go-to person first, and then sort of saying, okay, social media, I don't really like doing it. I know it needs to be done. How much could I afford to pay someone to do it for me? Okay, I'm not the best graphic designer. Who can I get? How much do I have to pay them, and what will I get? And so you become a bit of a resource manager, project manager. Let's cut to the end of the story. Is no matter what we did, they were so picky about the type of client they wanted to take. Even though I was generating them a lot of phone calls, and this was my first experience to tracking phone calls and listening to calls. This call is being recorded, that kind of thing. I would listen to all the calls. They were paying me enough that I would take the time to listen to all these leads. And they were fine. The leads were the right people. This was a personal injury or employment. If you got fired, wrongful termination, that's what they focused on. And people would call in and say, hey, I got fired, or hey, I got injured. But a lot of times these people didn't really have a case, but they didn't know that. And there's no real way to sort of stop people from calling. If I got injured and I want to call a lawyer and your ad is there, I'm going to call. Oh, you don't have a case. We can't work with you. And so many times they would say, oh, we can't help you. Sorry. And they were so blunt and mean about it. Not the lawyers, but they had these people on the call saying, yeah, I talked to the lawyer. We can't help you. And that's it. There was no, here's what you can do, blah, blah, blah. But they would just tell you right away, can't help you. And so even though we'd spend 30, 40, 50,000 a month on Google ads, it was so competitive. I believe the law firm industry in Los Angeles in personal injury is probably one of the most competitive industries that exist. And there's not much we can do. And later on, I realized, and I hadn't picked up on this as early on, but if you took their Google reviews, they were actually very poor. They had a 2.9 star rating, maybe low threes. And so that comes to reputation and brand, and you can't always advertise through that. And they were ranked probably 200th if you added up all the law firms in Los Angeles under this industry. They weren't ranked very high. So in the end, I couldn't get them the results they wanted. At least that's what they perceived. I found out later on, just shortly after I worked with them, they did close a $10 million lead, something like that. And so it's kind of well, could you have really gotten that if we hadn't have rebranded you? Could you have really gotten that if you hadn't all these content posts on your site? And so marketing is kind of this tricky thing, because sometimes the marketing you do today doesn't pay off for another 12, 24 months. And that's why it's important to market when your business is doing well. Because when it's not doing well, it's too late. You can't just suddenly turn on your marketing and pick things up right away. So keep that in mind for your clients, that the best time to market is when things are going well, because you've got the cash flow to do it. That was 2021, 2022. I started having children. I was running Rich+Niche. I was helping others. And then comes 2024, I got a substantial client, and I was now at a whole new world of confidence because I was running Rich+Niche and I'd learned how to market my own business. I kind of felt like I don't really need clients if I don't want them. But in my head, I was like, I do want clients because I want to keep proving this works. I want to keep doing it and staying sharp. I don't want to be an old marketer. I want to be fresh. I want to learn what's happening, cutting edge. But I wasn't forcing clients. I like to let clients come to me. I'd rather be magnetic than a spammer. And so what I used to do is I would go to Starbucks every single day. In Canada, where I live, Starbucks was probably the best place to do work. It's nice and bright. You have coffee. I looked at it like, okay, I'm going to buy a coffee, but I'm going to sit here for 2 to 3 hours. And I would do that every day. I really enjoyed waking up at 6 a.m., getting to Starbucks, driving there within 10 minutes and starting my work. I really think it's powerful to do your work right away as soon as you wake up. I think that's when your mind is the most capable of taking massive action and not overthinking things and getting it done Finishing 3 hours of work before 9 a.m. and leaving Starbucks when everybody's just getting ready to go to work, it's a great feeling. You feel like you've accomplished more than someone would in their whole day before they even start. And so if you go to Starbucks every single day, you become well known. Everybody's going to know you. Even when I went back to Canada last month, after not being there for 8 months, I went to my Starbucks and everyone's like, hey, Rich, where you been? If you go to the same coffee shop every day for over a year straight, everyone's going to know you. So it's this kind of unique way of becoming magnetic and getting a network without even trying. You just show up. And I would see the same people there too, because people have routines. And so this one guy, he would sit right in front of me in my eye line every day. I sat in the same seat, he sat in the same seat. And he would have different people with him, but mostly the same. And one day he just turned to me and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing a lot. He's like, well, what do you do? I said, I do a lot. I said, I make YouTube videos, I make websites, I do marketing. He's like, I need someone to do that for me. Maybe somehow he sensed that's what I did. But he's like, do you think you could help me? I said, of course I can help you. I said, why don't we sit down and have a coffee tomorrow and discuss your business? He's like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So he comes tomorrow, talk about his business. I said, listen. He's like, we don't like our website. I said, okay. He said, I'll tell you what, give me a week and I'll make a presentation for you and explain to you how I work and what I'll do for you. And a week goes by, I prepare like a 12-page deck and I show him what I do. And I said, this is called the OPMA model. It's a subscription model. And I said, you don't like your website, so here's what I'm going to do. In the first month, I'm going to finish your website. He's like, in 1 month? He's like, the last website took 3 months. And it's like, wait a second, you're only charging $5,000 a month? He's like, we just paid $15,000 for the website we don't like. And it took 3 months because he went with an agency. I said, yeah, there's a difference when you work with a freelancer. We're faster and we're cheaper because we don't have an office. This is my office. And he said, if you can get me a website in a month that I like we have something here. So I said, sure, pay me $5,000 and I guarantee you a completed website within a month. And I did that. And he loved it. And it's still up today. And I still work for him today. That entrepreneur has paid me $5,000 or close to that, like 20 months in a row. Not once has he said he's thinking about quitting. You know why? Because there was no one in the business doing those things. And ever since I came into his life, it's changed. I'll tell you some things how his life has changed. People said, hey, how come I see your business online every day? I feel like every day I see something about you. And then he went to the restaurant and they said, hey, you're famous. I see you on Instagram. This guy is not tech savvy. Even if he knows how to use ChatGPT, he wouldn't have the faintest clue how to make a website, how to set up an ad, how to be successful on Instagram. So after I finished the website, sure, I've done a couple other projects for him because when you're getting paid well, don't worry about doing a little extra work here and there. But the primary thing we do for this client is I post on their Instagram and Facebook twice a week. And I run Google ads and Meta ads. And I try to refresh the campaign once a month. But when the campaign seems to be working well, I don't like to change it. And ever since then, they have had quite a lot of success. And what happened was, that's really interesting. Here's what's really interesting is he said, I'm kind of like you. I do a lot of stuff. I sell boats. I fix boats. I drive boats here and there. But I also make docks. It's boat related. And he's like, but I don't think I should be marketing my docks on my boat website. And I said, yeah, I don't think so either. And I said, why don't we create a new website for that? And this is how I really locked him in for those like 20 months. I said, you know what? Normally I would charge you more for having 2 different brands because I got to do twice as much work. But if we have this long-term relationship, I'll do it for you. So I set up a new website, set up a new Instagram account, started posting twice on the new Instagram account, and started running Google ads and Instagram and Facebook ads for this new company. That's all the marketing. I was solely responsible for the marketing. They didn't do any marketing. It's a brand new domain name, brand new business name, brand new everything. But we sold over $2 million of docks in the first year. And one dock costed $1.2 million. And that's all because we created an Instagram account. We posted twice a week about the docks. And we run ads. And we were one of the only people in the area offering this. And we offered it at a faster turnaround than anyone else could do it. So it was a good offer. And now we see like a copycat starting up. But this speaks to that there is simplicity in the marketing techniques and strategies that we do now. If you can be very specific about your offer, it's not hard to market it to an area. And this is like a local marketing thing. It only has its area that it can reach. It can't go that far, right? They can't make docks across the world. And every week, more leads come. If I go to my email right now, there's going to be more leads. I'm almost tempted to like show it for proof. I feel like it would be something good to prove. Let's see if I can quickly do a search and not reveal too much in my email. And I'll show you. Okay, new form submission. That's what we should search. New form submission. Okay, let's take a look. Here's my email. I get every lead that comes in. Just look at this first page. From November to 17th to September 29th. All of these people are asking for something from this business. Let's take a look at a few. Okay, this is not a very good one. Do you manufacture aluminum gas tanks? I have a steel walkway and gangway. I need a 15-foot gangway and a 42-foot ramp. That's $20K. I have a waterfront in lake east of Mission. I have a 24-foot pontoon looking for price. I'm renovating a home looking for a ramp. Looking for a 10 by 30 foot steel channel. Looking for estimates on 10 foot by 15 foot dock. Want an estimate for a dock. I need a ballpark estimate for a 16 by 20 dock. Down here it says looking for a floating dock near Denman Island. We have a couple of gates, so we also can make gates. Looking for a 16-foot gate. Quote for an 8 by 40-foot floating dock. So my point of this was just look at my email. Like, we are flooded with leads. And if we close even 20% of these people, we're making 7 figures. So it comes back to leverage. Do you think this business owner feels like he's leveraging me? He pays me his inbox is full of people who want his $20,000 to $40,000 docs. And then occasionally somebody wants a super doc. So the guy who bought the $1.2 million doc, he created Amazon Prime. He's the most wealthy person in our region. He's building a mega dock. He probably has like 3 yachts or something like that, speedboats, etc. So with 2 Instagram posts a week and simple, clear Instagram ads and Google ads, all focused in one thing, you can generate a lot of leads. And it's important to see that case study. And if you go to my website, richandniche.com, and you click log in, and you can get a free account right now. Just create an account. It's free. You can see my 2 case studies, and I will go over this even in more detail. And if you get my free book, it will lead you to that as well. But I just think it's so awesome that with this basic work, I'm talking 3 hours of work a week. Someone wants to pay me $5,000 and I can live wherever I want. I said, hey, Dave, that's the name of this business owner. I said, guess what? I got bad news. I'm moving to Paraguay. I didn't tell him that. I said, hey, I'm going to go to South America for a few months. And I got there. He's like, are you ever coming back? I said, no, I'm not. He's like, well, that's okay. Just keep doing what you're doing. But, you know, I went back to Canada a couple weeks ago, a month ago or whatever, and he's the only person I really wanted to see. I really actually miss working with him in person because we would go to the coffee shop together every day and we would just kind of shoot the shit often. It's like, hey, what's going on? Any leads? Blah, blah, blah. Can you do this? Can you do that? And yeah, sometimes he's like, oh, can you make me a banner? I want to put up a big banner on my boat. He's like, can you figure out this spreadsheet for me? I want that. Can you make that for me? Now, I'll tell you another secret. That process, even though it's OPMA, it became the go-to process. We don't want to change anything. It works. Keep doing what we're doing. So I trained someone else to make those posts every week. I trained that same person to make an ad once a month. I trained that person to write the report. So now I spend 0 hours a week on this client, maybe 30 minutes talking to them if they want to call me. He hasn't called me for 4 straight weeks. I don't know why. I guess he's just happy. So once you kind of make someone happy and you figure out what works for them, you can replace yourself. And that's crazy leverage. That's making like $3,000 per hour or something like that. So I think the OPMA is a stepping stone to a very powerful lifestyle business or a scalable agency, whatever way you want to go. I like spending time with my family. I do a lot with my children. I take them to school very often. I don't want to be working all the time. But I'm still providing immense value to my clients and the people at Rich+Niche. It's all about leverage. I get on a call once a week, everybody sees it. Get on a live stream once a week, everybody sees it. Replacing myself where it makes sense after I do the work, receiving those dividends or those monthly retainer payments, client is still happy. That's incredible. And it wouldn't be possible though if I didn't become a full stack marketer. If I was a video editor, wouldn't be possible. If I was just a web designer, wouldn't be possible. If I was just a copywriter or an advertiser, wouldn't be possible because people will then say, well, your method isn't working. I'm going to find someone else. Or your project is done. Why do I need to keep paying you? But in my situation as a full stack marketer, as a one-person marketing agency, it's like, hey, we're not getting leads as much as more. Well, let's take a look why. Maybe things have changed on Instagram. Maybe we need a new ad. Maybe we need to fix this. Like, We become problem solvers rather than a specific specialized service, which is what everyone told you to do for the last 10 years. It says specialize, specialize, specialize. And I'm telling you to do the opposite. Become a generalist, become an architect, learn how to build a whole house. Don't be a plumber, don't be a roofer, don't be a painter. And that's why we will not be obsolete. We will be the marketers who rise to the top. We will be the designers of the systems that AI supports. We will be the thinkers that bring things together. We will not be replaced. We are a buffet. If, you can't get salmon anymore because salmon go extinct, every sushi restaurant is going to suffer so badly. But if we've got sushi in our buffet and salmon goes extinct, we just stop worrying about sushi and we focus on steak and potatoes and pizza and salad. And if AI replaces salad, don't worry about it. You can just focus on breads and cheeses and meat. Do you see what I'm saying? The model has to be AI proof. It has to be future proof in 2026. And if you're going to go with that model, you have to think about, well, how should I get clients with that model? We don't need to have a niche. We don't need to run ads. We don't need to spam email everyone. We need to have 30 conversations every quarter. We need to have 10 conversations a month, 30 minutes each, 60 minutes each. Let's call it 60 minutes. You need to have 10 hours of conversations a month. So you need 2.5 hours of conversations a week. And you will have 5 clients before you can blink. Remember, if I have 30 conversations, I'll stimulate 15 sales opportunities. I'll close 1 out of 3. That's 5. Don't think about 1,000. Don't be getting 1,000. Don't scrape 1,000 leads. Think about what's the most sensible 30 people I can connect with. Well, my first 30, bullseye method from my network. Do you know someone, John, who needs a multi-skilled freelance marketer who can come in and be a growth partner for a business? I do content, ads, and websites. You make 30 of those in the next quarter. Then you go to 2 events a month and you speak to 15 people at each event and you give them a card or a QR code and they can follow up with you. Or you can book a meeting right there, or you can have a meeting right there. Then you join 1 community a month and you bring value, you add to the conversation, you don't be so introverted. It's not hard to get 30 conversations started. It's not hard to get 15 people to talk with you about a possibility of working with you. And it's not hard to close 1 out of 3 people on the OPMA model because it's what people really want. Why don't people want social media management anymore? Because nobody wants 20 cookie cutter posts every month. You don't need it. It doesn't do anything. Yes, I need some content every month, but what good is content if there's no lead system? If there's no one building out a CRM? So when I work with my client, I say, yeah, I'm going to post, I'm going to run ads, but I also set up the system so that he gets the email properly. And then I say, hey, are you checking your leads? Yeah, I'm checking them. Good. Why don't people want specialized services? Because they're inflexible. And even if they try them, they give up on them after a while because that alone is not real marketing. Real marketing is holistic. Real marketing cares about brand. Real marketing is traffic and conversions. Too many people just want to do one. And that's what makes us these superheroes, is we come in and even if we're not doing that much, nothing is really ignored. It's like, oh, your website sucks. Let's fix that. Oh, you've got no traffic. Let's start posting and running ads. Oh, you're not closing any deals. Let's figure out your sales process. Like, what are you doing? Do you have a VSL? Do you have any testimonials up? Did you get reviews? And you might be thinking, well, it's easy for you, Rich. You mastered this. Fair enough. But what's your alternative, first of all? What's your AI-proof alternative? So here's what I'm telling you, is if you want to do what I do, spend time with me more than this lame live stream. You're not even listening. You probably are scrolling right now and you're doing something else on your other screen. You probably have music playing. You're not even listening. 2 of you are playing a video game right now. You come inside the academy and you do this for the next 10 years. You commit. Too many of you are not committed. And you see, that can be difficult. And so why I do these kind of things is to build confidence in other people that this is actually a viable thing. Because in the end, you must make an internal decision that you want to be a freelance marketer for the next 10 years or more. And so I have to make an argument for you why that's future-proof, because there's a lot of ideas that aren't future-proof. And if you're going to make an internal decision, you need to see a pathway to success. So I'm explaining to you my pathway to success. And I'm telling you the different ways you can get other pathways to success. But at the end of the day, you have to make the commitment. You need to believe internally that he's right. There is no better idea than this. If I don't want to have a job and I want the benefits of working remotely, which for some people, that's not important. But for many people, you don't like your country, you don't like your politicians, you don't like the people living in your community, you don't like the crime rates, you don't like the taxes, you don't like the weather, you don't like the opportunities, you just don't like it, you're sick of your friends, your family isn't even that nice to you. You want to leave, just like me. You need remote income. So if you want to be future-proof, remote income makes you more future-proof, because if your country is getting bombed, or your politicians are insane, or your taxes are 50% and you can't survive, move. And if you can't move, then you're just tax slave. It's not a life worth living, really. And so I'm here to build conviction in people. I'm here to say, this is a real opportunity that I'm still doing today. And yeah, maybe your first client's going to be $500 a month, but you better start. You better start right now. You better go all in right now. And if you like and you want to learn what I'm saying, and you want to be the Michael Scofield instead of the Lincoln, you need to come train. And so I've been spending 5 years trying to figure out what is the best way to train someone. How can other people get the benefits I got? How can you have good work? Don't you just want good work? It's not like we don't want to work. It's not like I didn't want to work. I just didn't want to be a lawyer because in my opinion, it's not good work. It's slave work. Someone's leveraging me too hard. I can't have a VA go to court for me. And let's be honest, lawyers are not future-proof anymore. Let's be honest about that. Doctors are not future-proof anymore. Elon Musk said, Optimus will be the best surgeon in the world. Hey, have you ever used ChatGPT to look up your symptoms lately? Doctors are done. Accountants. Why would I use an accountant who can make so many mistakes when AI can review all of my documents privately, relatively speaking, tell me what I should do and say, hey, here's your situation. Here's what you should do. Here's your tax planning. Here's your tax amount. Here's what you owe for this and that. But marketing, why is that safe? Why is marketing safe? That's what we should be asking ourselves. We need conviction. I got people saying to me, is this going to be obsolete, Rich? I say no. I say what will be obsolete are the crappy marketers who don't really actually study and learn. And maybe they were getting by doing basic copywriting, basic email setup, templates all the time. If you can think in systems, which I will teach you how to do, if you master the Life Force 8 and the human psychology, you will be a marketing genius, essentially, relative to most people out there. People, do you know what the Life Force 8 is? We use the Life Force 8 every day as marketers. It is the ultimate psychology tool. And we will take AI and we will leverage it for ourselves and our clients to get better business outcomes. We will not be replaced by AI. We are becoming the CMOs, the fractional CMOs, the growth partners, because even if AI can do a lot, these business owners are clueless. Look, maybe some Gen Zers are going to come up and they can use AI to make a business. But let's be honest. Who are the real business owners in this current world that we live in? How old are they? What generation are they from? They don't know jack shit about AI. They couldn't use a computer to save their life. They probably learned Lotus 123 and Microsoft Teams, and they log into their corporate dashboard. But take them outside of that, and they are completely lost. They don't know any tools for marketing. Even you know ChatGPT, you are miles away from marketing a business successfully. Because if ChatGPT can do everything, if AI can do everything, you know what happens? All businesses converge to the same strategy, the same writing style, the same concepts and methods. And it's not marketing. Marketing is about saying we're unique. And you want to know how to be unique in the AI era? Don't use AI. Remember what I said? I like AI. I think it's pretty good at copy, but my strategy is to write copy from my heart, so that people can actually connect on a human level. And I believe as much as AI is popularized in this next 10 years, there's going to be a huge anti-AI wave where people are like, fuck you. You use AI, I don't want to use you. It's just dead. AI is dead. We want to be human. We want to be natural. So AI can be a multiplier. AI can be a tool. AI can support what we do. AI can fill in some gaps. But the reason I teach full stack is it's irreplaceable. It will never be obsolete, at least for our lifetimes. We are just about to emerge in the most special time of our lives, where never before has the creative also run the ad. Just go back 10 years. You have creative agencies and you have advertising agencies, and they are different people. You have web designers and you have copywriters, and they are different people. And AI helps us be better. AI gives us more confidence to be an all-in-one Swiss Army knife. And most businesses would never be able to afford the best copywriter in the world, the most expensive web designer in the world. They don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to hire and manage multiple people. You say, hey, I'm your one-stop shop. I am your go-to. I am your single point of contact. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good. There's going to be so much AI noise, business owners will be completely drowning. They won't even know where to get going. They'll be like, I'm using ChatGPT 3.5 still. And you'll be like, we're on Grok, bro. You know, we're on Gemini. Like, we're on Nano Banana. You ever heard of Nano Banana, Dave? I don't fucking think so. 2 hours and 29 minutes live. You had Rich UX available to you. Did you ask any good questions? Hi, Rich. How do I pitch my services to people in my network? Probably around the 90-minute mark, I was talking about the bullseye method. You'll have to go back, and I explained that you don't pitch to your network. You ask the people in your network if they know anybody who might need your services. The funny thing is sometimes they're like, oh, well, I actually need your service. Tell me about it. So you get both 2 in 1. Well, I'm glad you took some notes. I hope it was valuable for you guys, and that was quite a workout for my lungs and my vocal cords. I hope you guys got some value today, and I'm trying to get live more often. Right now, I'm on what? Every 2 weeks? We'll get to every week. Look out for me in 2026. You know, my wife, she's a strong believer in different elements like, you know, you got to be around when your kids are very young. You got to support your wife when she has a very young child. You can't just be working all the time. But in 2026, my oldest is starting kindergarten and my youngest will be at the same school for his preschool. I'll be taking them to school every day, which is actually very close to our home. And I hope to have my own office, and I hope to be in the office, 5 days a week. And I hope to be at this new chapter. Like having 2 young children and still doing what I've been doing, I don't think very many people give me credit for. Frankly, I think I make it look a little easy. It's actually relatively difficult. I've had many difficult days and weeks over the last 5 years. Having children is no joke. You got to be a tough person to navigate that. And to do that while living in Mexico, Serbia, and now Paraguay, you better be sharp and you better be your best behavior, dropping the addictions, dropping the bad habits, manning up, so to speak. It was a challenge for me. I've definitely had to grow, and I hope that 2026 is a big content year for me, really reaching out to more people. And I've got some big ideas. And one of my initiatives, I'll just be transparent, is that if there's anything I can do that would be game changing, it would be how can I connect my students at Rich+Niche with their first client without them having to really do anything. I think the first client is so valuable, and I think it's difficult. I said that. It's a mountain to climb. And you notice how I said, look, this client led me to this client, and this client got me to that client. And that's why it becomes downhill after you get your first set of clients. But if there's anything I could do that would really change the outcome of my life, this business, and the people inside of our community, it would be to create a client acquisition system for other people. And so while I'm here teaching you this, sharing what I know, sharing my experience, my initiative is to solve that. My initiative is to say, look, let's not make this hard for other people. Let's make this easy for people. And I believe that would be such a valuable thing. And I think that if I can solve that, and I have a strategy in mind, I can't share that. It's not substantial enough. I don't want to share it right now, but that's what I'll be thinking about mostly in 2026. And speaking of 2026, go to richniche.com/workshop, sign up for my January AI no-code web developer workshop. Here's what it's going to be all about. I'm going to show you the best way to make an AI website in 10 minutes that's actually good. I'm going to show you a way to make a website that clients actually like. You know, that new client that I charge $7,500 USD a month for, which I didn't talk about very much. I built their site using this method, using AI, and they love it. And the key is it's not vibe coding. It's not using Cursor or Gemini or ChatGPT. It's on a real website platform, and it's still so easy. And here's the real outcome. I'm going to teach a method in the workshop that, and we didn't really talk about this, you could outreach to clients with a website in hand and say, hey, if you hire me, here's your new website. And it would only take a few minutes to spin it up instead of weeks or months to create a website. I think this will be the workshop of the year. I'm very excited about it. You would walk away from this workshop with 2 key things. I can make a website for anybody of any kind, which can scale, which can have blog posts, which can have multiple pages, which can have consistency and is on brand. That's key. But the second thing is, I'll be doing a bit of a challenge and you'll have no problems with it. You'll have 5 to 7 websites in your portfolio before the end of January. And I think what we're offering is you get your money back as a credit if you finish the challenge. So think about this. You sign up for the workshop, $100. You do the challenge. You have a portfolio. I give you your $100 back. You can use that for a month at Rich+Niche, or you can put that towards one of our more substantial programs, and you'll have your first monetizable AI-powered skill. We're not avoiding AI. We're leveraging AI, and we're figuring out, and we've been patient. We didn't just jump in day one and say, hey, here's AI marketing. We said, is this really working for people? Like, can we actually do this? But after I used AI to make a website for a client spending, $60,000 US in 6 months, 5 months, it's like, well, that's proven. That works. And I can scale out this website with ease. And so I'm so excited about the method I've discovered. It's only going to get better. So check out that workshop, guaranteed value. You can win your money back. That's a Hormozy method, win your money back. I think it's amazing. I think it's a great way to give people value. It's an exciting way for people to feel like, hey, I've got almost nothing to lose if I do the work. And that's the thing. I need you to build your portfolio. You can't just say you're a marketer. You have to make some stuff. So if you could make 7 websites in 7 days, wouldn't that be valuable to you no matter where you go for the rest of the year? You have that portfolio with you. And so then you add a bit of content, some ads, some copywriting. Before you know it, you've got a fully fledged portfolio ready to go. When people say, well, what have you done as a marketer? They love to say that. Show me something you've done. People love to say that. And you're going to get that. And so you want to be like, here's what I've done, That's going to be it for today's live stream, guys. I know I didn't get to every question I promised. I know I didn't get to every topic, but I had fun, and I hope you had a good time, and I hope it was valuable for you, and I hope you come back and see me on the future live stream. Like the stream, guys. Get the algorithm to pick this up so a few more people can see it. There's 330 million small businesses in this world. We are not needing to be of scarcity mindset. There is an abundance out there. Connect with abundance. Abundance is waiting for you. Train hard, keep skilling up, become future proof. We'll see you on the next live stream. Thanks so much, everyone.